Sponsors for Wisconsinize 2016 campaign coverage: Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin League of Municipalities, 5 9's IT Solutions, AT&T Wisconsin.
Matthew Bughman of Milwaukee is a Libertarian candidate in the 7th Assembly District. Matthew, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, my first question for people like you is, why are you running?
It's kind of hard to put an exact term on. There's quite a few things of why I'm running. One of the main things is I found myself over the years kind of being turned off by a lot of the partisan politics that go on, and find myself kind of without a home. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party kind of diverging on a lot of issues, and the extremism that goes on within the two parties. I felt that I kind of was left without a home within the political system. And then over the past several years, there were a couple key issues that I kind of became passionate about, that I felt that myself and quite a few other people weren't being weren't being properly represented, and I felt that that I could go out there and possibly make a difference and get those issues out there. Primarily taxes. Wisconsin is one of the highest tax states in the United States. Primarily our income tax and our property taxes. Then you throw into the fact that I'm from Milwaukee County, one of the highest taxed counties in Wisconsin, and you throw in the city of Milwaukee, the highest tax city, one of the highest tax cities in the United States. And that's one of the things that, when we come home at the end of the day and look at our paychecks, where's our money going? And that's kind of a big issue with me, and I know it's a big issue with where I'm from, when everybody kind of comes home at the end of the day and they look to see where their money's going. One of the other big issues, I'm a background of law enforcement, and I know today's day, we see a lot of issues in that. And I think I can speak to that, some of the things within that profession that can help bring accountability back to that. And so there's kind of those two issues kind of sparked my passion for getting involved in politics.
How long have you been a City of Milwaukee police officer?
For a little over 8 years now.
8 years.
Yeah, correct.
Let me ask this question. The incidents of protests and violence in August highlighted some unique issues: high unemployment among African American men, Milwaukee public schools graduation rate of 60%. What should Wisconsin learn about the city that you work in terms of how to improve life there, especially in the inner city?
Well, I think you kind of touched on a couple issues, but there's so many issues, and we have to understand that there is no quick fix. There is no quick fix to any of these problems, and that it's going to be a long, arduous road. One of the big issues that you did touch on is a high unemployment rate, and that's something that we are going to have to tackle. One of the things with tax law, we're hurting small businesses left and right with some of our archaic tax laws that we have going on. The personal property tax that goes against small business. Things along those lines that hammer down on small business that employs quite a few, that could possibly employ quite a few people, does a lot of damage. One of the other things I think that does a lot of damage between community relations is some of our drug laws, especially marijuana.
Yeah, on your website, you say that we should, let me try to find it here, legalize marijuana and end the war on drugs.
Correct. Baby steps first. I think marijuana, there was that new Marquette poll, I think that came out in it was late July, early August, where now 60% of Wisconsinites that they surveyed now say that they agree with legalizing and regulating marijuana. I think that's a big step, and that would be a big step in improving a lot of the relationships between law enforcement and the citizens. Because I think a lot of it, you have to kind of put yourself in those situations where officer goes out there to make a stop. That citizen or whoever that person is, they have marijuana on them. That automatically, and the way the laws are drawn up now, creates a situation that could turn into a potential terrible situation. All over a plant that we're now finding out possibly has medical potential, and is not along the lines of heroin or things along that. And that if we were to legalize that, we take away that situation. That alleviates it. Doesn't put an officer to make that, puts an officer in that decision. Doesn't put that person in that decision where it's a fight or flight risk, where they don't have to make that fight or flight decision.
Sure. Okay. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, but we got a lot of ground to cover on some of the state budget issues.
Sure.
Transportation funding. Would you raise revenues? Would you borrow more, or would you delay projects?
I would absolutely delay projects.
Delay projects.
Yes.
And not raise any type of revenue.
No. Being as a libertarian, the less taxes, the better. Right now, like I was explaining before, we're one of the highest tax states in the U.S. How we can justify spending more, and you look at the I-94 project that goes right through my district, and the amount of money that's gone into that, and kind of the mess that's become. I mean, it's a prime example of why we should not be spending more money on some of these major state projects.
Okay. State funding of K-12 public schools. This year it's $5.25 billion. It's a lot of money. Next budget, should it be increased, decreased, kept the same?
I would always look for a decrease. And I think, there are ways. I can't point to any specific areas, but I would always look for a decrease, and I always think there probably are areas that can be decreased. There always are through bureaucratic ways. Money does get caught up in the entanglement of bureaucracy. There are ways that funds can be either cut, or else they can get to the direct source where they're needed. I do support, the voucher and school choice programs.
Do you support that program?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. The choice of the parent is always number one. I don't think, the parent should always have the choice of where their kids are going to school. Absolutely.
Calls to raise the minimum wage, which is now $7.25 an hour. Your position?
I would be against that. Absolutely. The employer should always dictate that. So I would be against that.
Wisconsin healthcare is often ranked among the best in the nation. It's very important to the employers and residents of the districts you want to represent. But as a libertarian, what is the role or the obligation of state government to hospitals and local healthcare systems?
I think the role for the state government in the healthcare system is kind of a touchy situation with libertarians. I find myself kind of be a little bit more moderate on that situation. I think we should be involved in some type of regulatory process with, with the medical field. But within funding, like a full funded programs, I think we should be as much involved. Do I think we should have safety nets for those who can't truly afford or can't be cared for? I absolutely do, and those should be funded properly. But I don't think we should be as nearly involved, and I don't think we should be asking for handouts from the federal government. I think we should be cutting ourselves away from the federal government, because I think we can properly, if anything, we can properly build our own programs and maintain our own programs here in the state that better fit with the Wisconsinites here.
You don't support then the nation going to a single-payer universal health care
No,
program?
absolutely not.
Okay. State government is increasingly imposing mandates, telling local governments what they can and cannot do. My question is, should there be a law before state government enacts mandates? State government should say how that mandate is going to be paid for?
Well, number one, we shouldn't be, or could you repeat that question one more time?
State government is imposing mandates on local governments, telling them what they can and cannot do. Should there be a law before state government imposes a mandate? State government should specify how that mandate is going to be paid for?
We should be trying to steer clear of as many mandates as possible. And if there were to be mandates, because I know I understand the rationale. Being the Libertarians, we are a smaller group,
Yep.
and that if it were to come to fruition, there should be some type of, it should be clearly defined what that mandate is. And I do agree that it should be clearly defined. If it is going to happen, it should be clearly defined so we know what the role of that mandate is. But I don't agree that there should be any type of state mandates, like forcible mandates coming to the city. The cities should be able to grow, and local governments should be able to grow and grow on their own and grow their own legislation, because local government typically serves their people a whole lot better than larger government does.
Well, which brings me to my next question. As a libertarian, what are the 1, 2, or 3 top obligations or duties of state government, just overall? Your philosophy.
Property rights, protection of the people. So that'd be, and then number 3, the pursuit of happiness. So pretty much, the role of government is to protect the people and allow them to take responsibility of themselves, so that as long as they don't interfere with the other people, with anybody else living their life. I mean, that is, and otherwise government should be outside of that role.
As a libertarian and as a police officer, what's your view of Second Amendment issues? Background checks on guns, things like that? Where are you on the Second Amendment issues?
I'm pro Second Amendment, and if I would take it a step even further. I think that with the way our concealed carry is now, I think that we should do away with the permit portion of it.
So you back open carry?
I back open carry. I think it's kind of absurd that people have to pay to express their Second Amendment right and pay for a permit to have a concealed carry. I just think that you shouldn't have to pay to have access to your Second Amendment rights. I'm pro Second Amendment.
Homeowners pay 70% of Wisconsin property taxes, yet big box retailers are suing to lower their assessments, which could shift more taxes to homeowners. And business community wants to abolish the personal property tax. My question: how do we protect Wisconsin homeowners from paying more of the property tax burden?
Well, number one, that would be, like I was saying before, one of the issues is taxes. And that goes across the board. We should be lowering taxes for everybody. It shouldn't be just, hey, big businesses should not be exempt, and then the burden gets shifted. No, absolutely not. We should be number one, we should be targeting, because when you look at taxes in general, who does the burden truly fall on? Who does it hurt the most? It hurts lower income and middle income people, because they're the ones who can least afford it. So I mean, in general, that's who we should be giving relief to. But at the same time, we should be looking at businesses as well, and looking at them the same way, is that taxes detract from business. They push away business. But the same thing with our citizens. It pushes away people. And it's the same ideology, and that we should be going away from taxes as much as possible.
Lastly, do you want to highlight differences between you and your opponents? You have 2 of them on November 8th.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest difference is that I offer a philosophy that is both fiscally conservative but socially accepting. And I think our presidential candidate, our Senate candidate, Phil Anderson, my congressional candidate, Andy Craig, all the way on down, we all offer that voice that fills that void, that especially here in Wisconsin, where we've got kind of this big slant to the right, big slant to the left, where we come right down the middle, where I think a lot of people fall, where we can be fiscally responsible, but at the same time socially accepting of people's rights. The right of the individual, but at the same time, we can manage our government in a fiscally responsible way, where we're taking care of our money and we're not burdening the people while shelling out for big business, or vice versa, where we're not working on a big welfare program for other people. And I think that's the biggest highlight right there, is that we're right down the middle on both issues, and that we can appeal to both, or that I can appeal to both sides.
Thank you. Matthew Bughman of Milwaukee is a Libertarian candidate in the 7th Assembly District. The election is November 8th. Matthew, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
No problem. Thank you, Hill.
Thank you.
Sponsors for Wisconsin Eye's 2016 campaign coverage: Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin League of Municipalities, 5 Nines IT Solutions, AT&T Wisconsin,